Today, we're gonna be going over our commercial kit for the Sony FX3. Now, I've been building out this kit for the past 4 years as a cinematographer, and I found that these accessories are the best for my work specifically, as well as our workflow. Over the past years building this kit, we figured out what works and doesn't work, and we're gonna show you exactly that so you can save money. Like any good camera rig, especially with the one that we're talking about today, it has to start with a good base. And we are looking at the Sony FX3. And specifically what you're gonna want when building out your kit is a good camera cage. We are using the SmallRig Sony FX3 half cage in this case, and not the full cage. And the reason why we went with the half cage is because we like the flexibility of using the actual Sony FX3 top handle, which we're gonna be talking about a little bit later. So I like the flexibility of that because it has a NATO rail on the top that you can take off and then you can put that handle back on. The older generation, when we were looking at the SmallRig full cages, didn't have that feature and the cage would just get in the way. A few little accessories that I actually have on this cage is an HDMI clamp, and this just secures the HDMI port so I don't damage it. And then I also have a small rod mount clamp on here, and this is really good for tripod setups as well as when this goes on a gimbal and I'm running manual focus lenses and I need a focus motor on it. It's a low compact system that has one screw, there's not two screws, and then the clamp actually acts as a screw, and there's also a RE locating pin in there so it doesn't get loose or free or rotate on its own. And then on the bottom, it's very nice that it has a Arca Swiss compatible dovetail plate, and that can go on any Arca Swiss system, but we're not going to be using that specifically. So this is my cage, bottom cage with a few improvements and a bunch of different holes just to screw things on and attach different accessories to. The next thing that we're going to be moving into this rig is a proper base plate system. And this kind of has two base plates built in one because we're going to be working this camera on a Ronin rig as well as a normal tripod setup. And I like to use for my tripods RE Dovetails. It's a system that we've upgraded to across all our cameras. And it's just the standard when it comes to more commercial work, and then also just switching to different bunch of systems. But on top of that too, we have another base plate that comes off so we can easily put it on normal tripods as well as our Ronin RS3 Pro. So we're gonna put that on. And then as you can see here on the bottom that this is the RS3 Pro plate, and this one is created by SmallRig and it's designed for the base plate system that we're actually gonna put this on. So I like to use this because it has the gear teeth for manually adjusting the position on the RS3 Pro, and then this can also slide into a tripod if needed on a very minimal setup. But the next thing that we're gonna be breaking down on this is the Bright Tangerine left field system for their quick release as well as RE Dovetail plates. When it comes to purchasing your first RE Dovetail system, they can get pretty expensive. We're gonna be linking in the description some budget-friendly options because I know this is very intimidating on the long end. So this is the standard left field system, but it also has a DJI and Crane quick release system so you can put this base plate on so I can take it on and off. It takes it to the standard camera height when using different types of lenses, and it quickly slots on in that and has a quick release system here. Now, my camera is spaced up high enough on a riser system from the rails to the sensor that is standard across all cameras when you start breaking into cinema cameras as well as working on bigger sets. So this is the base for the entire system, and now we're gonna start building off of that with the accessories that we love to use for the work that we love to do. And the next thing that we're gonna be adding is a proper set of rails. Now, these are just 15mm rods, and I like to use the steel ones or aluminum ones because the carbon fiber ones, even though they're lighter, they don't really last under the usage, and over time they don't really work really well. So I like to use the steel and aluminum ones specifically, and these are generic ones that you can just find of SmallRig, which we like to use. So I'm gonna slide them in there. And in this rig specifically, I know I don't need any lens support, but I'm gonna be hanging a bunch of things off the back. So this is what the general configuration I like to put them under. And then there's two rod clamps that clamp them both on the front and back. And then I'm pretty set up, ready to go now. And just to make it easier and talk about base plate systems, so this is the RE Dovetail system, and these ones are made by SmallRig. These are very affordable for what you're looking to do. We have a bunch of them across our cameras, and we like to have different ones. especially when trying to create specific camera rigs and getting very versatile and moving from system to system. I like to have multiple of these in my kit. This is my standard one that I like to keep on my tripod. And then I have little ones like this that I can put on different camera rigs, like an overhead setup or an underslung dolly on different tripod heads, so I can easily and quickly move between systems. But to show you why the left field system is one of my favorite systems to use when it comes to Dovetail systems is that it has a quick release catch right there. I can put the right side on, the left side on, lock it in, and I'm good to go. And if I want to adjust from front to back to actually balance my camera, I put it to the half position, and it takes a lot of force to actually release it. And then I can easily slide it from front to back to adjust my camera's position, and I know it's not going to come off. And then when I want to fully take it off, there's a hard click, and you have to put some force into it, and it's easily coming off. When you start using heavier cameras and building out your camera a little bit bigger, this is crucial when trying to go into setup to setup, especially getting on these plates, because you don't want to have a mishap where your camera is not latched on properly and then eventually could potentially fall off, which has happened to us before with other systems. The next thing that we're going to start doing is building off the back of our rails here, and this is going to be our main power distribution system as well as accessory holder. So I like to use this small rig V-mount holder. This is just a plate. This doesn't have any power to it, and then this just has a 15mm rod spacer, and I like to face that this way, and you're going to see what that's for later. On the back of that, we have a shaped V-mount system, and this takes one V-mount battery and splits it up into 4 individual D-taps. And this is basically the maximum amount of D-taps that you need when powering any rig, but I use all 4 of them when I'm powering my accessories. So usually that is the camera if I want to run a dummy battery off of, my transmitting system that is going to be on this here, my monitor, and as well as my focus system. So I'm pretty maxed out with this. And this is the only one I really found in the market that has this option. Usually has 1 or 2, and then you go off the V-mount battery, which maybe have 1 or 2, but this just gives you 4 in an all-in-one system because I want to take off my battery and switch it without removing any cables. So I kind of like to have that at the end, and then this is the point where I kind of flip open my screen, and now this is going to be my control surface kind of thing that I use to change the settings, and then I can release some tension on this, which is the rod system, and kind of shove this forward. And this is the general setup I like to use. So I have access to my screen. I know there's a lot of dead space here, but it's gonna be kind of filled up with what we have next, which is our transmission system that we like to use for our commercials, as well as just general, even corporate work to give somebody else a feed. And our transmission system of choice is the Hollyland transmission, and they have a bunch of different units at this point, but we like this because of the price point as well as usability and quality that we get out of this. And to make this work for our system, I have a custom bracket on here that allows me just to put a V-mount plate on here. So I can put this on the camera, I can put this on a production monitor, I can put this on another camera, or I can put this on an entirely different system. And we like to do this because a lot of my commercials, I like to shoot on the Sony FX3 as well as bigger camera or sometimes 2 FX3s. And I can't afford to have a transmission system on both of them. So I want something that I can quickly add onto one camera and then quickly take it off. So this is just a V-lock system that you can put on anything if I wanted to put on the back if I wanted to do that. And this small rig plate just puts a perfect height for us in terms of getting these antennas out of the way, as well as its quick release. And the next thing that we're going to add is our top handle of choice. So this is the Little Stinger top handle. They have 2 versions of this. They have the bigger version. I like the smaller version because it fits my hand perfectly. And then on this, I have a quick release system for the monitor mount, which we're going to be getting into after. So this simply just goes on the top of the NATO rail, and then I can lock that down. It's a perfect snug fit, and I know that's not going anywhere. And then usually in the commercials that I'm shooting, scratch audio just on the camera itself through its internal microphone is good enough. But if I'm looking to use the audio top handle, it's a bit of a switch to do that, but I like having this NATO rail here and this half cage just to do that if I wanted to actually get good audio and run an XLR mic. And then just because we had to adjust some things here, we can just move that entirely back. And this is the top handle that is included in the kit. So we can fit this on and then screw it on. I'm just gonna do it hand tight for now because we don't really need to showcase that. And now this is the Sony top handle that comes with the kit itself. But there's an addition that we added, which is the small rig extension plate, as well as the small rig top plate for the Sony FX3 handle. And this just makes the handle actually usable, because a lot of people have noticed when you grab this, you have to use it like this, where your finger gets intercepted here. But with this, it gives you a good center of mass, as well as a NATO rail here if you want to put certain accessories, as well as a mounting point here to put your actual monitor. This was the biggest complaint with the Sony FX3, and especially the top handle, and Small Rig came out with a great accessory that solved that problem. So we're going to put on the other top handle, and then on this top handle as well as we have a little accessory here called a sprig, and this just helps for cable organization once we have everything built. But the next thing, now we can move to the front of the camera and the accessories that we're going to be adding. In our kit, when we shoot our commercials, we like to use the DZO Baseplate primes. Now this is just a lightweight lens that we can run on a simple tripod setup with a matte box without any lens support, as well as put this on a gimbal. With the RS3 Pro, it can handle it no problem whatsoever. So this is what we're going to be building out with this rig, but we're going to be going over another setup later where it has actual bigger lenses that we can showcase what we use for lens support specifically for this camera. So these lenses are EF specific, and we are using a K&F Concept E-mount to EF lens adapter. And this one's pretty simple, and it is great for the price point. So this is the one that we recommend. And then in addition, we have 3 of these vested primes that we use for our kit specifically. And what we like to do is step these all up to a 77 to 82 millimeter step up ring, which keeps the lenses consistent, and as well as you can just put a lens cap on here instead of using these kind of plastic lens covers. And then because this camera has no internal ND, and I know this is the biggest complaint, but there is a lot of workarounds to it. And we have this K&F Concept variable ND filter, as well as circular polarizer. And this is our really best one for choice. We like to buy, especially when it comes for price versus the value that you get out of this. So this just screws on, and this is 82. So we like to use a variety of lenses, from still lenses to cinema glass. And the biggest problem that we saw, that there was not a standard thread system across all of our lenses. So what we like to do is buy a standard step-up ring that brought our lenses to a standard 82 millimeters. This allowed us to put lens caps on all our cinema glass, including the Baseplate primes, as well as buying only 1 or 2 of these variable ND filters, filtration, or circular polarizer filters separately, so we didn't have to buy them for specifically each one of those lenses. So this is just a small thing that we recommend that you do for your system, so you don't get caught in the trap of buying so many different filter sizes when it comes to purchasing variable ND filters specifically. So the next thing that we're going to be going into is the monitor. And like I said before, I like everything on a quick release system, because I use the Sony FX3 for a lot of probe shots, for a lot of underslung dolly, just a lot of specialty angles when it comes to commercial filmmaking. And a lot of times I have to de-rig this completely or strip it down to something that we can easily move. And having quick release parts on this has saved me so much, especially when it comes to shooting commercials. And the biggest thing that I purchased for this camera is these Link Cine quick release clips. And there's different versions you can get this, and there's different systems, but I recommend just standardizing your system across all your cameras. Small Rig makes a very good system similar to this, and it's equally as functional. This just goes for a matter of choice of what you want for your camera. And the friction arm that I have is the Wooden Camera flagship monitor arm. And you can use any monitor arm you want, but this is just the one that I've had in my kit for a long time and I like to use. And my monitor of choice is the Hollyland Mars M1. And the reason I like this monitor is just because of the build quality and how small it is, as well as being able to transmit to another monitor. And it's a very color accurate monitor, as well as has HDMI as well as SDI inputs and outputs. I don't like putting big 7-inch monitors on this system because it just gets too cumbersome, and then eventually the camera starts tipping over on the side that the monitor is on. This is a perfect lightweight system, as well as it's pretty durable with the build quality, and I love to use it. And then if we move around to the back, we are going to be using the Came TV 99 and 50 watt batteries. 99 usually lasts me half the day, and usually I'm not shooting for that long, but this is perfect for this system. But if I'm only running accessories off this will last the entire day. So that simply sits on, and it's a low profile battery that works for this system. And then even if I want something smaller, I use the 50 watt, which is perfect for me. So I generally just have 2 of these batteries the entire day, and it works. So we're gonna put the 99 on there, and then we're gonna move to the front and start working on our focus system. For our follow focus system, we use the Nucleus M because it is affordable and accessible. We don't see any need to upgrade to something fancier or what's on the market. It's just work for us, and it is pretty reliable. I don't like to put the Nucleus or any follow focus system on my bottom rails because it generally interferes with the dovetail plate that I'm using down here, or generally gets caught up on the tripod. So I like to keep that clear and very compact. And that's why we have the small rig side rail here. So I like to attach my Nucleus system to the rail first. This one's pretty long, so you can get different sizes. So we're just gonna put that on here. And there we have it. I know this rod is pretty long for what we're using, but you can just get a bunch of different sizes. Generally, I have a 14-inch for longer setups, 12-inch for a setup like this, and then 6 and 4-inch for side rails like this. Generally, with a lot of cinema cameras, you have the rails coming off the top, and that's where you put your focus motors, but you can easily go off the side and it just gets off the base plate like we were talking earlier. So now that we've added all our accessories, the next thing that we're gonna do is wire this up. The first thing that we're gonna start off with is power for the camera. And we like to use a small rig dummy battery. Now this one is approved and it gives the right voltage to the camera, so you won't have any issues where you could possibly fry your camera. We don't like to use any third-party batteries. We like to use the stock Sony batteries because although they're expensive, they last and they're quality. And then with this system back here, I kind of like to generally space this out and then run my wires here. So it kind of keeps everything nice and tidy. And then I just close that back up for that one specifically. Next thing that we're doing is plugging in our HDMI. We like to use these ones by ZILR, and they're very long and flexible. So when it comes to mounting this on a Ronin, this is the perfect length, but you kind of have to bunch it up when applying it to a rig like this. I like to do that and then add that to my sprig. And I'm just gonna plug this in here to the other side. And this is an extra add-on on the small rig FX3 cage, and this is just an HDMI clamp. And this just secures your HDMI so you can pull it and you don't risk on actually breaking the port of the camera. I'd rather break a cord than the port of the camera because that's gonna be more expensive. And then I'm just gonna run the HDMI to my Hollyland transmitter, and then I'm good to go here. And now because I'm sending my signal from the camera to the HDMI, I need to loop this out back to my monitor so I can look at the image myself. And I'll bring it through the sprig here, and then that will go on my monitor. I like to use SDI cords from Shape, but these are the 90-degree attachments, but you can easily pick up different options on Amazon. Now, a lot of misconception is that you need to go your camera directly to the monitor to get the best signal, or vice versa to the transmitter to this. I like to send it to the transmitter, then loop out to here, just on this camera specifically. There's lots of cameras that have multiple SDI ports or HDMI ports. This is what I like to do because I like to send a clean signal to the director's monitor or a production monitor or whatever is receiving this, and then I'm not too concerned if I lose feed. I'd rather lose feed than the actual director, client, or somebody like that. The next thing that we're gonna do is power our monitor, and we are using the ZG Cine DTAP to NPF adapter. And the reason that we like to use this is because it has a flexible DTAP port. So this can go 90 degrees left or right, and that's why we like to use it. I'm gonna run this through the same sprig, and now this is going to attach here. Only gripe with this is it's bright orange, but still works. Our next accessory that we're going to detach is our Nucleus system, and this is just a DTAP to a 7-pin, and this comes with the Nucleus M itself. The last cable that we're going to be adding is a barrel to DTAP cable for our Hollyland transmission system. And then at this point, you can see that my monitor is interfering with these cables. And what I like about this is I kind of call this as a backpack transmission and power distribution system. I can just release my rails on my baseplate here, and then I can slide everything back as I need it, just so I can open this door even more so I can have a side access control. Or even if I want to close it completely and I have control over my monitor, I can shorten this up completely to the handle, and that creates a very clean system for me to use. Like I said before, we like to use the Sony FX3 in so many different configurations, and that's why we have it specifically built out like this. We're gonna just go over multiple examples to showcase why we have everything on a quick release. If I need to take the monitor off and the top handle off to make this a little bit more low profile, we have our quick release system that we can do that, as well as take off the top handle while just taking off all these cables. And this is just a good example of being fast and building your camera for your production specifically. And this has a variable use cases. If I want to strip this down completely and go to a gimbal, I can easily just take off all my cables, take off this entire backpack that we talked about, take this off the base plate, and I'm good to go and put this on a gimbal because my wireless follow focus system is on the camera and not on the rod base plate. This is kind of my favorite. What I like to use this camera for is putting it in a lot of places that bigger cinema cameras can't really be put in. And this is a lot of overhead setups, underslung dollies, where just this slow profile of this camera really shines. And what I like to do is, like I said before, is have everything on a baseplate system that I can easily connect to really any accessory with all the mounting holes that we have here. So these are the ones made by SmallRig, like I said before, and there's different sizes. And if I had a configuration like this, and this was supposed to be vertical or something like that as an example, or even underslung, that this was basically underneath this, I can easily put it on this plate, and then I'm ready to go in a matter of seconds without taking out any screws, and it's a quick release system. Once we changed over to this system and started buying separate plates, this really optimized our workflow because we weren't going from system to system. We had a standardized system across all our cameras as well as mounting setups when it comes to getting different types of shots. Now I'm talking overhead, underslung dolly, or any type of specialty shots that we specifically like to use this camera for. And one thing I like to do that in a case that I don't necessarily really need any NDs is use a matte box, and I've used for a bunch of times when it just comes to optics and making your camera look good. And then you can just invest in a small matte box system that you can get 4x5 filters for, that I would just recommend in getting diffusion or getting yourself a small ND set. This only works for a camera if you have internal NDs, and unfortunately this doesn't, and there's other solutions to that, such as a E-mount to EF mount ND throttle, and that is a great alternate if you're trying to use more diffusion filters and don't want any front filtration when it comes to a variable ND filter. The last configuration I want to talk about is using bigger lenses, and especially when it comes to using PL lenses. So we are using the MetaBones E to PL adapter. This is kind of a premium adapter when it comes to PL lenses, and there's many other alternatives that are available that we'll list in the description below, but this is generally the biggest lens that will live on this camera, which is DZO Arliss Prime. And then this is the matte box I love to use. A lot of people like to call it the budget alternative to the R8 lightweight matte box, and I absolutely love this matte box for the price point as well as the different attachment I have for this. I can mount this to any lens I want with the backings that I have, and it's a very affordable kit that I highly recommend when investing into a matte box system. And you can see how versatile this rig is because I can easily put a Sony 24-70 on here, a lightweight cinema glass such as the DZO Vespid Primes, and then going up to a bigger version with a lens support, as you can see down here, and this is by SmallRig as well, and this is our go-to when it comes to supporting a lens on this camera. So when it comes to building your Sony FX3 or any camera, and specifically especially one with a DSLR style body, there's so many different types of accessories that we've bought and wasted money on, and this is going to be kind of personalized to your system specifically. But the biggest things that we kind of wasted money on is not analyzing our needs for our camera. In this case is really power distribution as well as a proper good top handle. When we talk about power distribution, you have to basically maximize this for the amount of accessories that you're going to have on the camera. And this requires 4 DTAP ports or 4 power ports that I need. And I'm going to be powering the camera, my monitor, transmission system, as well as my follow focus system. So we wasted so much money on buying DTAP splitters, different types of power plates, and just different type of batteries that had more DTAP power plates. And what's really good about a power distribution system that has everything here and nothing plugged into the battery, if I need to quickly swap my battery, I don't need to be pulling out any cables or forgetting to pull cables and then I end up damaging something. The battery is completely separate and I can go to another battery, literally in seconds. And the second thing that we wasted a lot of money on was finding a good, proper top handle. When you're looking for top handles for you, there's a lot of proprietary ones that don't have necessarily a lot of mounting holes, that have cold shoe options. What we look for, and what I look for specifically, is RE locating holes so I can bolt accessories that won't move, as well as a bunch of mounting holes that I can put a bunch of different accessories. When it comes to camera rigs, I want to use a system that aids my workflow and doesn't hinder my creative process. I've built this system so I can maximize my creativity as a DP. I don't want to be on set and be frustrated with the technical aspects of my camera, but really focus on what it means to be a cinematographer, and building a proper camera rig has really helped me in that.